A retired lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserve, our next guest speaker was elected to represent Wisconsin in the 5th Congressional District in 2020. He earned a Bachelor's of Science at the University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh, and lives with his family in rural Clayman, Wisconsin, where they raise horses. In 1990, he purchased and ran the Dodge County Independent News and sold it in 1996 to the Watertown Daily Times, where he continued to work for a number of years as an associate publisher. Please welcome the Honorable U.S. Representative Scott Fitzgerald.
Thank you. It's good to be with everybody today. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Post 15 from Juneau, Wisconsin, and all my good friends at Post 420 over in Eustisford. Also saw on the way in a couple of 84th Division alumni, which the headquarters was located right down here on Silver Spring Drive for many years. But it's great to be with you this afternoon. Thank you to Commander Dillard and the American Legion for inviting me to speak today and for your efforts in putting this event together. I think I speak for the rest of the congressional delegation and just saying how happy we are that you chose Milwaukee for the American Legion Convention this summer. I'm proud to stand here today to address you as a veteran and as a fierce advocate in Wisconsin and as a member of Congress. I did join the U.S. Army Reserves back in '81 and proudly served for 27 years, retiring in 2009 as Lieutenant Colonel. And in every facet of that service, from my days as a recruit down at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, to my time as a battalion commander, I was always honored to stand beside the amazing men and women that served this country so well. The values that I was taught in the Army taught me to serve the greater good. That's what it's all about. And that was a major factor in me deciding to run for office and ultimately to run for Congress. It was truly a privilege. I served in the state Senate here in Wisconsin for many years, in which we authored and moved legislation that helped veterans. And now as a member of Congress in Wisconsin's 5th District, continuing to do that. The mission of the American Legion since Commander Dillard took over last year has been, as you know, no veteran left behind. And so I'd like to take a little bit of time to talk about that theme. As it's been mentioned earlier by Senator Johnson and others, first I think I'd be remiss if I did not address perhaps the most important issue to the American Legion this Congress, and that was the final passage of the PACT Act. Those of you who fought so tirelessly to bring that bill across the finish line deserve a lot of credit and should be very proud. Thanks to your efforts, your long days advocating for veterans in the halls of Congress, met many of members of the Legion and the VFW who came specifically to D.C. just to talk about that issue. And as a result of that persistence, we find ourselves now more 3.5 million toxic exposed veterans will finally get the benefits and the health care that they deserve. Congratulations, give yourself a hand. Congress also passed several other bills to provide much needed support to our veteran community. Bills like the Sergeant Ketchum Rural Veterans Mental Health Act. It will provide more community-based care to veterans diagnosed with mental health issues, and the Strong Veterans Act, also, which will increase mental health staffing at both the VA and at the vet centers throughout the nation. However, No Veteran Left Behind doesn't just start when a veteran leaves the service. It's our duty to ensure our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians are given the capabilities not only to win on the battlefield, but to win at home and to win with their families once they return. And that's why I'm proud that the House continued in a bipartisan tradition to pass this year's fiscal 2023 NDAA. In addition to improving our military readiness It increased pay for service members. It increased basic needs of housing allowances, and also recognized some of the low-income military families that are currently suffering. But there's more that Congress can do to support servicemen and women and the veterans. When the Department of Defense announced the mandatory COVID-19 vaccine policy, countless service members became at risk of losing the very hard-earned benefits upon discharge from the service. Congress took the first step to address this issue last year by mandating that service members who refuse the vaccine cannot be dishonorably discharged. But there are still thousands of active duty and reserve personnel whose education benefits are at risk. I introduced a bill to fix that along with my colleagues and would urge the Legion to work with my colleagues in this next Congress to address the disparity and restore the benefits to those who were unfairly stripped of these educational benefits. Thank you. Finally, we must do more to address that backlog of service record requests at the National Personnel Records Center as well. So there's a lot of things that Congress is working on, but we need to be targeted and very specific when we do that. I was proud to support the Access for Veterans to Records Act, and the bill that passed the House was the first step. But veterans and their families should not have to wait weeks, months, years for records that put their medical care, their student loans, or even their death benefits in jeopardy. No Veteran Left Behind is more than just a campaign. It's our duty as veterans, as public servants, and as community to be there for those veterans that come home. Not only for them, but for their families as well. The American Legion and your tireless advocacy efforts will continue to shape policy on Capitol Hill and in the state legislatures across this nation. I'm confident that you will continue to hold the legislatures accountable to ensure that no veteran is left behind by Congress. Like I once encouraged myself, you got to put one foot in front of another during those long rucks. I remind people all the time that you have to keep the faith and be persistent and be consistent if you're going to make things happen in D.C. and in the state houses. Listen, those who served our country volunteered themselves in an act of patriotism to the nation. And they served and protected and have been very loyal. It's incumbent on us to never forget that when facing headwinds and those in Congress that might not be willing to move forward. I'm so glad that you're here in Milwaukee today and so honored to be able to offer just a few of my thoughts this afternoon. Thank you, and God bless the American Legion.